Article number 1, Pro-King. We have already seen that all power is of God. The ruler, adds St. Paul, the first pope and one of Jesus' disciples, is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain, for he is the minister of God, a revenger, to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Rulers then act as the ministers of God and as his lieutenants on earth. It is through them that God exercises his empire. So the royal throne is not the throne of a man, but the throne of God himself. It appears from all this that the person of the king is sacred, and that to attack him in any way is sacrilege, or goes against the church. They are by their very office the representatives of the divine majesty, deputed by Providence for the execution of his purposes. Kings should be guarded as holy things, and whosoever neglects to protect them is worthy of death. There is something religious in the respect according to a king. The service of God and the respect for kings are bound together. St. Peter unites these two duties when he says, Fear God, honor the king. The royal power is absolute. The king need render account for his acts to no one. Where the word of a king is, there is power. Without this absolute authority, the king could neither do good nor repress evil. It is necessary that his power be such that no one can hope to escape him. And finally, the only protection of individuals against the public authority should be their innocence. This confirms with the teaching of St. Paul. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good. God is infinitive. God is all. The king, as king, is not regarded as a private person. He is a public personage. All the state is in him. The will of all the people is included in his. As all perfection and all strength are united in God, so all the power of individuals is united in the person of the prince. What grandeur that a single man should embody so much. The power of God makes itself felt in a moment from one extremity of the earth to another. Royal power works at the same time throughout all the realm. It holds all the realm in position as God holds the earth. Should God withdraw his hands, the earth would fall to pieces. Should the king's authority cease in the realm, all would be in confusion. Look at the king and his cabinet, then go out the orders which cause the magistrates and the captains, the citizens and the soldiers, the provinces and the armies on land and on sea to work in concert. He, the king, is the image of God, who, seated on his throne high in the heavens, makes all nature move. Finally, let us put together the things so great which we have said about royal authority. Behold an immense people united in a single person. Behold this holy power, paternal and absolute. Behold the secret cause which governs the whole body of the state, contained in a single head. You see the image of God in the king, and you have the idea of royal majesty. God is holiness itself, goodness itself, and power itself. In these things lies the majesty of God. In the image of these things lies the majesty of the king. So great is the majesty that it cannot reside in the king as in its source. It is borrowed from God, who gives it to him for the good of the people, for whom it is good to be checked by a superior force. Something of divinity itself is attached to kings and inspire fear in the people. O kings, exercise your power then boldly, for it is divine and solitary for humankind. But exercise it with humility. You are endowed with it from without. At bottom, it leaves you feeble, it leaves you mortal, it leaves you sinners, and charges you before God with a very heavy account. Article 2, Anti-King. Introduction. A man named Emmanuel Joseph Saïs wrote a famous booklet that helped start the French Revolution. He argued that the third estate, or the regular working people, were actually the most important part of France. Saïs stayed a powerful leader for many years, even when the revolution became very dangerous and scary. He survived those hard times and eventually helped the famous general Napoleon Bonaparte to take control of the country. All right, so what is the third estate? The plan of this book is fairly simple. We must ask ourselves three questions. One, what is the third estate? Everything. Two, what has it been until now in the political order? Nothing. Three, what does it want to be? Something. We're going to see whether the answers are correct. We shall next examine the measures that have been tried and those that must still be taken for the third estate really to become something. What has the third estate been until now? Nothing. We shall examine neither the condition of servitude in which the people of France, especially the third estate, has suffered for so long, nor that of constraint and humiliation in which it is still confined. Its status has changed in private law. It must change still further. The nation as a whole cannot be free, nor can any of its separate orders unless the third estate is free. Freedom does not derive from privileges, it derives from the rights of citizens, and these rights belong to all. If the aristocrats, so the people in the first and the second estates, try to repress the people at the expense of that very freedom of which they prove themselves unworthy, the third estate will dare challenge their right. If they reply by the right of the conquest, one must concede that this is to go back rather far. Yet the third estate need not fear examining the past. By third estate, it means all the citizens who belong to the common order. As we have already said, a nation is made one by virtue of common laws and common representation. It is indisputably only too true that in France a man who is protected only by the common law is a nobody. Whoever is totally unprivileged, like the people of the third estate, must submit to every form of contempt, insult, and humiliation. Who have been the French government's so called representatives? Men who have been raised to the nobility or have received temporary privileges. These bogus deputies have not even been always freely elected by the people. The States General is almost always the representation of the people is considered as inherited in the holder of certain offices. Let them create as many noblemen as they like. It still remains certain that the moment any citizen is granted privilege against the common law, he no longer forms part of the common order. His new interest is contrary to the general interest. He becomes incompetent to vote in the name of the people. As a result of brotherhood, nobles always prefer each other to the rest of the nation. The usurpation is total. In every sense of the word, they reign. Finally, is it not enough simply to open our eyes to what is occurring around us at the very moment? What do we see? The aristocracy on its own, fighting simultaneously against reason, justice, the people, the minister, and the king. The end of this terrible battle is still undecided. Can it still be said that the aristocracy is only an illusion? Let us sum up. To this very day, the Third Estate has never had a genuine representation in the States General. Thus, its political rights are not real. What ought to have been done? Basic principles in every free nation, and every nation ought to be free. There is only one way of settling disputes about the Constitution. One must not call upon nobles, but upon the nation itself. If we have no Constitution, it must be made, and only the nation has the right to make it. If we do not have a Constitution, it divides the National Assembly into three deputations of three orders of citizens. Nobody can fail to notice, at all events, that one of these orders is protesting so vigorously that nothing can be done until the claim is decided. Now, who has the right to judge in such a matter? But who will tell us for what purpose and in whose interest a constitution could have been given to the nation itself? The nation is prior to everything. It is the source of everything. It will its will is always legal. Indeed, it is the law itself.